Has there been a moment in your life that you can reflect back on and say was one of the happiest moments of your life? Where you believed you couldn't be any happier than you were in that moment? And you remember every small detail because you were completely present and in the moment? One of those moments for me was the moment that I gave birth to my 2 children. And I got to meet them for the very first time. Isabella and Luca. Seeing their faces, their tiny fingers and toes, and hearing their voices, my heart was filled with so much love and joy that there was no amount of money that could ever make me feel this happy. I believe there is a common understanding that money can't buy the intangible things in life, like love, peace, and happiness. And these emotions are the reason and motivation behind everything we do. There was another moment in my life, however, a little over 10 years ago, where I felt the most unhappy I've ever felt. I was going through the motions in life, wearing many different masks, trying to meet the expectations of others, yet feeling like I was always letting people down. My relationships with those closest to me were strained, and I felt so alone. I believed that no one really loved me. And if I died, it wouldn't matter to anyone except my kids. At this point again in my life, it wouldn't have mattered how much more money I had. I would not have felt any happier. I suffered in silence for a very long time, believing that no one could understand why I felt so unhappy. This is because you could say that my life looked pretty perfect on the outside. I had achieved all the things that family, society, culture, and religion told me I needed to have a happy life. A fulfilling career, a beautiful, healthy family, our own home, cars in the driveway, vacations a year, lots of beautiful material things. And so if my life checked off all the boxes, how is it that I felt unhappy and unfulfilled with my life? I was one of those unhappy people living a very abundant life. But no matter how much more I bought, earned, achieved, or where I went or what I did, I always felt unhappy. I had been led to believe that happiness exists external to us in our possessions, positions, titles, degrees, relationships, and experiences, where we say things like, I won't be happy until, and we finish this phrase with statements like, finish my degree, get that promotion at work, buy that designer handbag, meet that perfect person, lose those 10 pounds, or go on that idyllic vacation. Happiness is supposedly found somewhere outside of ourselves, and we just need to find, buy, earn, or achieve it. The misconceptions about where happiness is found kept happiness away from me. And for fear of shame, loss of love, and rejection, I didn't share how I was feeling with anybody. And this had me spiraling down a very deep and dark hole where I thought, how could anyone understand how someone living a perfect life with so much abundance be this unhappy? The debate about whether money buys happiness has gone on for centuries, with arguments on both sides. Those that believe that happiness cannot be found in money and in the things that money can buy, and those that believe the more money you have, the happier you are. A popular study in 2010 by Conman and Deaton seemed to put this debate to rest. stating, happiness increases with income, but with no further increase after 75K. So it didn't matter how much more money you had, you weren't going to be any happier with millions in your bank account, thus proving that more money does not make us happier. Fast forward to 2023, where a follow-up study by Kahneman, Killingsworth, and Mellors reignited this debate. They reanalyzed the data from the 2010 study and a 2021 study by Killingsworth, and the results were fascinating. Happiness, according to the research, happiness still increases with income. However, the plateau in happiness levels that was originally reported at 75K is only experienced by the least happy 20% of the population, where more money does not lessen their unhappiness. However, for the happiest 30% of the population, happiness levels do continue to increase and at an accelerated rate after 100K. So this study points to the fact that for people who are unhappy, it doesn't matter how much more money they have, they are still unhappy, much like myself. It wouldn't have mattered how much more money I had, I still would have felt unhappy. So the question that stood out to me was, what is it about the happiest 30% of the population whose happiness levels continue to rise? For these very happy people, whether they have under or above the 75K income threshold, they are always happy. So what are these happy people doing? Whether they have less money or more money, they are always happy. I had reached a crossroads moment in my life where I had two paths to choose from. I could either continue suffering in my unhappiness, living the same life, or I could start making some changes and doing something about it. Things I had never done before. They were things that didn't cost any money. They are the intangible things. The happiness practices that I am about to share with you changed my life forever. And it turns out the positive effects these practices were having on me, which I didn't know at the time, have all been backed by science. And the amazing thing is, my happiness levels continue to rise with more of the happiness practices I integrate into my life. Doing the things that happy people do can help you to feel happier. And the money you have or don't have really doesn't have very much to do with it. And these are things that you can start doing now, today, and commit to making the happiness practices that resonate with you a part of your daily life, one small step at a time. First, when I began meditating over 10 years ago, I didn't know it was going to be a huge contributor to my happiness. I now know that meditation was helping my body to release happiness and love hormones like dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin that were raising my mood and helping me to feel better about myself. With time, I started to love myself more, and I began replacing the negative self-talk in my head with positive and affirming statements instead of the limiting and sabotaging ones I had been saying on repeat for most of my life. By acknowledging the things that were preventing my happiness, I could begin eliminating them, and instead surrounding myself with more of the things I did want in my life. Next, turning my attention inward was helping me to become more mindful and present in my life. I began to slow down and focus on all the things I did have instead of what was missing. The beauty of the world around me became that much more apparent as I became consciously aware of everything I was experiencing, moment by moment through my senses. On my walks in nature, the flowers were that much more colorful. The warmth of the sun and light breeze on my skin felt so good. I was delighted by the sounds I heard, and my meal times became longer as I began savoring everything from my morning coffee to my evening meal. Being mindful was helping me to ruminate less on the negative feelings about myself and my relationships. Being mindful was also opening me up to begin communicating my feelings with my husband and improving how I felt about the other relationships in my life. Lastly, living in the present moment led me to being more grateful for everything in my life, but I had neglected because I was so busy searching for that next best thing or attaining my next goal. I had decided to start a gratitude journal where every night I would try to think of 5 things that I could be grateful for from that day. I didn't know that gratitude was directly correlated with happiness. So the more grateful I was, the happier I became, and vice versa. Somehow, being grateful was also improving my interpersonal relationships at home and at work, where I began accepting the emotional support of my family, friends, and coworkers, instead of believing that I was alone and unloved. It was also improving my relationship with myself by enhancing my self-love and self-esteem. The happier I became, the more I prioritized working on my happiness because it was improving how I felt about myself and my life. I began to realize that happiness isn't about checking off all the boxes like the great job and huge bank account. Happiness is something that can be felt when you live in the present moment and you tune into it. And the more time you spend tuning into it, the happier you feel and the better your life becomes. Happiness does not increase with money. Happiness increases with more happiness. Aristotle believed that happiness is the meaning and purpose of life, the whole aim and end of human existence. So I ask you, how important is your happiness to you? I urge you to consider committing to making time for these and other simple practices that can help you to tune into your inner happiness so that you don't lose yourself in the external checklist. Your answer will also determine how happy our world can become, because happiness is a gift that we give to ourselves and to those around us. I'd like to imagine a world where we look back at our lives and the events that we consider the happiest moments of our lives are not few and far between, but rather the small moments of happiness that are felt day to day when we are really present and truly appreciating and savoring our life from the inside out. Thank you.